is an invitation to join me this and every Sunday until December 17th on GBN Television and K105 FM from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. for Yuletide Sundays. Great music, gifts, and all the wonderful things of Christmas. Yuletide Sundays comes to you compliments Hubbard's, quality service, affordable prices, Grenville Credit Union, Gittins Healthcare, and Clear Vision Eye Center.
Saying good morning to our listeners. Those of you at Classic Radio 105.5 or 105.9, good morning to you. Those of you viewing GBN TV, Channel 7, Channel 11, Channel 20, good morning and welcome. It's Tuesday, the 20th day of November, and welcome to another edition of To The Point. It's Opposition Tuesday here on To The Point this morning, and with me this morning representing the opposition here is Mr. Oliver Joseph. Mr. Joseph, good morning and welcome. Good morning to you. How are you doing this morning, sir?
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be back, and good morning to all your listeners and viewers of this program.
All right, welcome. Now, this morning our conversation will be based on the recently a little bit of the battle in that, if you could say, the Samoa Agreement was signed by government. You've been this morning being former Minister of Foreign Affairs. Am I right about that?
Yes. And Minister of Trade.
And Minister of Trade. So you will have some background in terms of how these agreements are put together and so forth, and how government participation and so forth in those agreements. Give us a little bit of insight about what we've been hearing about the Samoa Agreement somewhat.
Right. Thank you very much. So I think the background is important to set the context. So the agreement is between the European Union. The European Union members, so it started out with all the former colonial masters in Europe. I say it started out because, some of the new members of the European Union now, they were part of the Soviet Union. They were not colonizers.
Okay.
When the Soviet Union was dismantled and most of them sought independence, they then joined the European Union.
All right.
So the 27 European Union members were not all former colonies. But how this started years ago, before the European Union. And then also remember, there was not a European Union. There were individual member states in Europe, just like CARICOM.
Yes.
They form an integration arrangement, an integration movement known as European Union. So these former colonies developed agreements with the former colonies, these colonial masters, in order to keep the relation going between these former colonial masters and the former colonies. And there were several agreements over the years. I'm sure you remember Lomé. They were signing Lomé, the Lomé Convention. Then you had the Cotonou. The last one that expired was the Cotonou Agreement. It gets the name from where the city where it is signed.
Okay.
Lomé, Cotonou, because that's how the Samoa one was signed in Samoa.
All right.
And that's how you get Samoa Agreement.
I understand that.
It's just like when CARICOM was established, it was done through what is called the Grandans Declaration. Mm-hmm. The heads of government had a meeting in Grenada. The meeting was held in Grandans, and therefore the agreement became known as the Grandans Declaration to work to the single market and economy. And so you have over the years this arrangement where market access will be granted to these former colonies and development aid would be provided to help these countries develop. And so every agreement came with a financing package.
All right.
Every agreement. These agreements are negotiated. It's not that the European Union come up with an agreement and send it to member states to sign, No, they are negotiated. And the Europe has the negotiating team. And CARICOM established a negotiating team as well to negotiate this agreement because it's very technical matters. You had the regional negotiating machinery that was established, and it was headed once by Sir Shudas Rampal and Grenada's Alistair McIntyre and guys like that.
All right.
Then you had the regional negotiating machinery. Dr. Patrick Antoine was the lead negotiator in agricultural market access. For years, he led the negotiation and on behalf of the region. So it is a negotiated agreement that is negotiated over years, sometimes 2-3 years.
So it's not always a one-off agreement.
Well, it's never like that. It's never like that. The proposals are put forward, texts have been drawn up, and there is a process and a structure that is established where technical working groups are formed with representatives from the various member states of CARICOM. And of course, as I said, the European Union have their team. And this technical working group will focus on certain areas in the agreement. So, when I worked in the Ministry of Trade and I was the Director of Trade and Permanent Secretary, my focus area in the technical working group was on non-agricultural market access and services.
Okay.
That's the group that I was assigned to over the years.
All right.
In the negotiation. And as I said, Dr. Antoine looked at agricultural market access. And so it is a process. And before you reach to the stage where the agreement can be accepted, you have the Council of Ministers. So you have the European Union Council of Ministers, and in CARICOM we have what is called COTED, the Council for Trade and Economic Development. The agreement will go to them so that ministers could sign off.
All right.
And on the agreement. And now CARICOM has what is called the Office of Trade Negotiation that will lead all these negotiations over the years. Now, so Cotonou expire and a new agreement, the negotiation began. On the 19th of July, the Council of the European Union published the first draft of the agreement.
All right.
That's for member states to study.
Okay.
Yes, and anybody could go online and look at it. That's why I'm giving the date. The 19th of July, 2003. That is the same agreement we're talking about, the Samoa agreement.
All right.
So it is that your 4 months. It was there circulating among member states.
So you should have some relative idea of what it should be about.
Exactly. So that you see that background is important for where I'm leading to. So Rev 1 came out and allowed member states to consult. Several meetings were held over the period of time. Because remember, you're dealing with a different European Union now. As I said, they have members who do not have the experience of the former colonial masters like France and Spain and the UK and so on. And so it's slightly different, and you have new issues now in this agreement that was not there in none of the agreement.
All right.
Well, as time move on, in 2023.
Things have to adjust in a modern...
Well, of course, 20 years gone since Cotonou, so you have new languages in it, but the member states have the opportunity to discuss it and make the
various tweaks in
it. Yes, that's right. So after this circulation, then the next stage would be after every member state send in their comments, it will be finalized, sent out again.
Was there a time period for sending in your
Yes, there will be. Well, of course, you have to set a time period
right.
because you want to conclude the agreement by the end of 2023.
Okay.
So a date was set for the signing, where member states were asked to sign. Now, not all of the 79 member states signed, right? Not all.
All right.
When the date was set, I think it was the 15th of this month for signing.
Yes.
Not all signed. Some sign on. Others say they need more time to consult.
And that is permitted, more or less.
Yeah, that is permitted. Yes, that is permitted for member states, allow member states to sign on. So that took place, and then when it was open for signature, member states who are ready to sign will go ahead, place the signature there, give the instructions to the ambassadors to sign. At the press conference held last week with the Prime Minister and the Minister of Foreign Affairs, which is causing all this controversy now over the agreement.
Yeah.
Because the Prime Minister said that he did not even read the agreement. So how they could sign?
But you're indicating that was out at least 4 months now.
Well, yeah, but he still couldn't. If he said he didn't read it, I'm not doubting him.
Yeah, right.
No, he could be out a year. And you didn't read it? Yes.
All right.
And then the Foreign Minister said, we would not sign. We still have a window of opportunity before we sign. And we would not sign anything that is not consistent with our norms and values and cultures. It might not be the exact words, but to say that we would not. The next day, the news came out that the agreement was signed in Brussels by our ambassador, Raphael Joseph, in Brussels. And so that is what is causing all this controversy now,
How is that conflict intermingling there? But how could the ambassador sign without the knowledge of the administration?
No. If he signs agreement without the authority of the minister,
yes.
In our time, in our arrangement as NNP, as the foreign minister, no ambassador could sign an agreement without authorization from what we say capital, from the minister. And the minister will go to the Prime Minister. And the Prime Minister will say, come to cabinet with it.
Okay.
And let cabinet, that's how we operated.
But are you sure that the president is following that particular format?
I'm not in cabinet, so I can't sure. I could just tell you, when I was in cabinet, what happened. But I find it very strange that an ambassador in Brussels will sign the agreement without the knowledge of the minister.
Yeah.
I find that extremely strange, but he said that they would not sign, and the next day release. And the release came from the Prime Minister's office, stating that Grenada signed on to the agreement together. I think on that day 4 other member states signed on.
Sign also.
Yes. Yeah. And so that had everybody in shock. What is going on here? Yesterday you said to the public that you have not signed yet, that you would not sign now until you're satisfied with the arrangement, and then it was
but for the benefit of it, could it have been that after the press briefing there was some discussions and the ambassador was allowed that to go ahead?
Actually, nobody said any time.
Yeah.
Well, actually, if you check the difference in timing between Grenada and Brussels,
yes,
I think it was signed the same day.
The same day.
But it's 6 hours difference. So while the Prime Minister and the Minister of Foreign Affairs talking about they wouldn't sign the agreement and that the Prime Minister was not aware of it, the agreement was being signed. And I don't know how that could happen when the minister need to give instruction. And why the need to say that? That kind of baffled me. You did not need to come to the public and tell them that when you know that you give instruction to sign. Say we sign on to the agreement, and then we are hoping to benefit from the agreement. So,
for argument's sake, what really is this Samoa agreement?
Right.
Really?
So that is what I'm going to come to. Yeah. So I'll give you the background before I come to what the Samoa agreement is about.
Okay.
And then I'm saying take away from focusing on the Samoa agreement itself. I listen to several calling programs. The callers are not focusing on what is contained.
What the agreement is really about.
What the Prime Minister say or what the Foreign Minister say.
Yeah.
And then this thing take place. That's what I'm saying. It's unfortunate. Because I should be here, all I should be here telling you about is what the agreement says.
Yeah.
And how we could benefit from it. And don't have to deal with all this controversy out there in the public over the signing.
Well, maybe for the benefit of the Arun administration, maybe it could have just be a slip in terms of communication at the point in time.
Well, I'm not going into what is the reason. The point is, why make the statement that you did not sign the agreement when it was signed? I mean, that was no.
Well, maybe we could get some clarification on that in due time. In due time, we get some clarification.
Yes,
we haven't had any official clarification on that as yet.
Well, I don't see what clarification you could get. But anyway, I heard somebody caller tried to explain it, and all he did was make things worse. Yeah. So this agreement now. The Samoa agreement replaces the cooperation agreement that was there before from Lomé, Cotonou, and between the EU and the ACP. In this agreement, you have provision that deals with the development, cooperation, services, trade, good governance, a wide range of issues. Now, there are two articles. I don't know if you heard the Archbishop of Trinidad and Tobago in a sermon.
I've heard. I heard what his concerns were.
Right, what his concerns were.
Yeah.
Actually, the words he was using, they are not in the agreement.
They're not in the agreement.
No, I'll tell you where it's coming from. And that is what a lot of people are focusing on. So let me start with the one on gender equality.
Yes.
So Article 10 of the agreement deals with gender equality. As I say, it's a wide-ranging agreement. I will have to come back the next day for me to go through the agreement. Okay? It's 403 pages.
That is pretty lengthy.
Yeah, very lengthy, yes. We'll just highlight some here. But let me just highlight the article that a lot of people are concerned about. And that is the only article I'm hearing referred to. So Article 10 states, and it deals with gender equality, and it states, and I will just read the first part of Article 10. The parties shall embody the principle of gender equality in their national constitutions or other appropriate legislation. That part is the one that is causing a lot of controversy outside there.
Tell me, in terms of that particular part of the article, how is that in reference to Grenada, into the Grenadian economy and Grenadian society?
Well, all of the member states.
Do we have to agree to that part of in the article? Even though we signed on, but do we have to agree to that?
Well, you can pick and choose in the agreement. What the agreement that will be? If you could just pick out what you want.
I'm saying it in the reference of, we speak of the European Union and so forth. Our territory, we could say, is of a different nature to a point.
Not that argument doesn't hold.
It doesn't hold.
You're a sovereign state. You have your own constitution.
Yes.
You have your own laws governing. But you enter into an agreement that says you shall, the word I read for you, shall,
All right.
You shall embody the principle of gender equality in your constitution or other appropriate legislation. So you sign it to say that you shall do that. So it's not that, well, I'm a sovereign. You're a sovereign state. Don't sign on. Don't sign. Stay, right? So this part of gender equality is the one that is causing some real concern out in the public. And then there's a next article that has gender equality in it again, Article 48. Article 48 now deals with, it says, gender equality and empowerment of women and girls You must have policies. You must have legislation. You must have policies implemented that will empower women and girls. You may say, well, that's okay. You could empower women and girls.
On a personal note, I don't think there's much to worry about on that.
No, but because it started with gender equality. I remember in the referendum there was some mention of gender, and everybody said, let's say
there were some issues concerning.
Yes, of course, concerning
that.
Exactly.
And it could be reasons for that. The of course referendum failed.
Yes, because a lot of people were telling me they're not going and voting because we want to bring in same-sex marriage. The word was nowhere around there, right?
So, but does this article that the government has signed on to, does that actually say that we are going to do that here? I mean, you could sign on to something and does not implement it.
But there are consequences.
Yeah.
Yes, you could sign on. But there is an aid package to it. You see, it's not just...
It comes to a question that I wanted to ask you in reference to this also. The benefit that derives for Grenada from signing this particular agreement.
Yeah, well, I'll deal with the benefits after. Just briefly.
Just go through, of course, what you explained.
Yes. So... If you remember, then I hear the comment that, well, we don't have to, and I recall in 20, I don't remember if it's 18 or 19, we had to change our laws to deal with money laundering and other issues like that. And if we did not do it by the 31st of that particular year, we will be blacklisted. Right? Grenada, we put place on a blacklist if we didn't do it. So we delayed the implementation, and then they said, you have up to the 31st of December to implement new laws to make it transparent. And they draft the laws and send it to us, The laws are drafted for all CARICOM member states. You know what? About 8 days before Christmas, we were in Parliament. Passing the law because remember the deadline is 31st.
Yes.
And the amount of holidays. You know when St. Vincent was...
Remember St. Vincent had a similar issue?
Christmas Eve. I never forget that. Christmas Eve, the Parliament was convened in St. Vincent to pass the laws. Well, nobody listening to you Christmas Eve. Culture, everybody busy shopping. Even for the members of Parliament, I'm sure that would have been a very inconvenient time. Because, but Christmas Eve, they was in the Parliament. Up to today, you hear ministers in St. Vincent talking about the Christmas Eve that they had to spend to pass the law. So it's not like, you could do what you want. You don't have to pass it. Well, there are consequences. Yeah. So, the Christmas Eve years pass because to meet the 31st deadline.
Yes.
Otherwise, you'll be placed on a blacklist and you wouldn't get investors to come. In the case of this agreement, there is an aid package with grant money, not loan, grant.
Yes.
In what they call a development package to help countries in the development process. So, if you sign on and you want to benefit from the aid package, you will be monitored for compliance to see how you complying with what you sign on to, as simple as that.
All right.
They do reviews, and every time you go to meeting, you have to report.
So you have to comply with what is stated within the agreement.
But you sign on to it.
Yeah. So I want you to stick a pin there for a bit. We'll come back and discuss some more. We drew for a break now. We have to take it. Let's take that break, and when we come back, we discuss some more. It's To The Point here on the Classic Radio GBN TV. It's Opposition Tuesday on To The Point. We're coming right back. Stay with us, folks.
National Lotteries Authority is a proud sponsor of many cultural activities within the trial state of Grenada.
My name is Anderson Matterson, also known as Leftist, and I'm a calypsonian and string band music player from Carrico. I support the games of the National Lottery Authority because culture benefits tremendously. Annually, the NLA supports the Carrico and Petit Matinee Carnival, the Carrico String Band Music Festival, and all regattas, among other activities. When I play the game of the NLA, I can see where my money goes, and it's an investment into our culture.
Yes, Grenada, when you play the games of the NLA, you enable us to invest in the skills and talents of our people in the areas of sports, culture, and nation building.
Hello everyone. Here is an invitation to join me this and every Sunday until December 17th on GBN Television and K105 FM from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. for Yuletide Sundays. Great music, gifts, and all the wonderful things of Christmas. Yuletide Sundays comes to you compliments Hubbard's, quality service, affordable prices, Grenville Credit Union, Gittins Healthcare, and Clear Vision Eye Center.
I want you to control your anger. There's a way to feel better. That's one thing to remember. No matter where you are, you can be a star. Stop and take a deep breath and relax yourself. Take another deep breath and relax it, and relax it. Eliminate violence.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers, to the point here on Classic Radio GBN TV. With me this morning, representing the opposition, is Mr. Oliver Joseph. Mr. Oliver, we will, of course, let's continue our conversation on the Samoa Agreement. And before the break, you started talking about the way for the benefits that could derive from the agreement for Grenada. Let's continue on that note.
Right. So Grenada, as part of CARICOM, the first thing that will happen is that a unit will be established for the implementation of this agreement.
Yes.
So the aid package, CARICOM will decide based on the aid package, the areas that the funding will go to and implement it from the central secretariat. Member states have some leeway in attracting some level of financing. But if you look at the agreement and all the agreements before, there is no money in there for infrastructure development here.
Yeah.
No. So, well, for the last 30 years, or 40 in some cases, we have had these agreements roll out. Countries have to borrow. If you look at all the ACP countries that are part of this agreement, all of them highly indebted over the years, because to do infrastructure work, they have to borrow. And if you borrow and you build infrastructure, and a hurricane come and wipe away the bridge or the roads, they don't wipe away the debt. You have to go and borrow again to build back this.
So technically you're saying, even though we have signed on, there's not much benefit that could derive for Grenada?
No, no, so I just used this point that about the infrastructure.
Okay.
Well, okay, so let me go directly then to where you could benefit.
Yes.
So first thing, Grenada, they look to strengthen your systems that you have and institutions in your country.
Yes.
They will help. They will provide financing for that. They will pay consultants that will come from Europe 99% of the time to do all the studies for you. So if you want to look at how efficient and effective you could make your public service, what areas you need to focus on regard to climate change, they will send consultants to your country to do the studies and provide you with a report. For training, if you need training for your people to deal with the various aspects of the agreement, for example, how to trade with Europe, how to deal with standards, strengthen the Bureau of Standards, you will get that sort of funding so that your products entering the international market will meet the international standards. They will provide funding to help you build that capacity. Okay. So you'll get money for capacity building and so on. But I made a point about infrastructure development to show that we really need, not that we don't need money in these areas, of course we need.
Yes.
But the money, what we borrow for then, if there was a financing arrangement where instead of having to go and borrow, you could get grant funding, that is what will really help us, if we get grant funding for these things, but you don't. So you still have to go to the international financial institutions.
All right. So are you actually saying that even though we have signed on to the Samoa agreement, if yes, there are some benefits that could derive from it for the country, but there's not anything significant other than we have signed on to whatever we have signed on to?
Well, it's significant depending on how much how you access the financing and how you use it. So instead of having to borrow money to use for institutional strengthening, for example, you could get grant money to do that. For training, for getting the private sector ready for export, you could get you don't have to borrow money for these things. Right. You could get financing under the agreement for it. So you focus on borrowing for, as I said, mainly infrastructure development, which is a real challenge. I could never forget the statement by the Prime Minister of Dominica when the last time they had the heavy rains and he washed away a bridge. And that was the second time that bridge went, Okay. And he said, his statement was, it may be cheaper to relocate the residents there instead of building back a bridge. No, it might well be cheaper if you build houses and relocate them, because you borrow money, build the bridge, hurricane come. The bridge is washed away, but your loan is not washed away.
Right.
The loan is, and you have to take a next loan to build a next bridge.
All right. So the gist of this Samoa agreement, as you mentioned, is basically, of course, what was mentioned by the Honorable Prime Minister and the Minister of Foreign Affairs. It's just a little bit that was the whole issue with that.
Yes,
more or less, that's the whole issue with that.
But there are a number of areas that we benefiting. So the climate change area, if you want to convert to green renewable energy, you can access funding.
All right.
For that. There's a whole chapter on democracy and building strong democratic institutions. Well, in our case, in the Caribbean, we are strong democratic institutions, but remember, it's the Africa, Caribbean, the Pacifica.
Yes.
So you will find that in the Caribbean, while we think that we are not doing well, if you do any comparison with some of the African countries, you realize you're doing well. You know?
All right.
So
all right.
there are benefits to be derived from it over the next 20 years. We must know how to take advantage of the funding that has been provided to our region and to our member states, so that we can maximize the benefit under the agreement. But we cannot seek to maximize the benefit by getting financing without compliance.
All right. And that's a key. Well, that's the key part of it.
Yes.
There are things that we're going to comply with within the agreement, whether, of course, it will benefit us or not.
Right.
We may have to just comply with it.
Well, we do a cost-benefit analysis, but there are certain laws that you have to pass because you agree to it. And
so we will be looking forward to some new laws being passed in Grenada in reference to this particular agreement.
Well, over the next 20 years.
Over the next 20 years.
Yeah. Yes. You'll make changes, but that is normal because you in 2023. So 20 years ago, issues that never came up.
Yes.
For discussion now,
it may have to be. The discussions may have to be implemented.
Well, of course. But you do not live in a static world. New issues always emerges, and you see, once people culture is very difficult to change, right? So in Grenada, we rate ourselves as a Christian society. And we have certain Christian values and things that we see as anti-Christian. We oppose it.
Yes.
But more and more, you have people around the world that these things that were seen as being anti-Christian or against God's will, they're coming up with, they have their own different views on that now. You know, we have different views.
Why were some other countries hesitant to sign this agreement in the first?
Well, they have concerns.
Yeah.
I'm not sure because what concerns they have, but you see, I find, as I said, when I read Article 10 and Article 48, I find in Grenada, just because of the word gender equity, this raise a red flag. And I had a program, and GBN, you know, with some people that were looking at inclusiveness in the education system. And for the calls that came in, I tell you, people took some hardline position. One lady called and said that's coming from the devil, you know. No, hardline position. Where are you going with this thing? That is Antichrist and the work of Satan.
But could it be a case of misinterpretation of the wording also from regular individuals that I've read? Sometimes there's always a concept of misinterpretation.
Yeah, well, of course you always have misinterpretation. Why you have so many denominations in the Christian religion? Everybody interpret the same scripture, passage of scripture differently. So you will have that, people, but people and their belief system It's something that is not easily dealt with. So, you see, but when you have just two articles out of this wide-ranging document dominating it, it's sort of unfortunate, because how would you get through to explain the other parts?
From an opposition point of view, what are some of the main concerns that you have about the Samoa Agreement from an opposition point of view?
No, first of all, what caused all this controversy from an opposition point of view, the minister and the prime minister misled the nation. They came and said they did not sign, and the agreement was signed. So that was our first major concern.
All right.
The second thing is, the cabinet must take responsibility. You can't sign an agreement and the cabinet, the prime minister said he didn't read it. So he didn't go to cabinet. In our time, I said to you, in our time, as Minister of Foreign Affairs, I had to bring any agreement to be signed to cabinet, to have a discussion on it before any ambassador signs it, or before I sign it as the minister.
Okay. So, Joseph, we drew for a break. We have approximately just around 15 minutes left on today's program. We will take that break. We come back. We invite, of course, calls from our listeners and viewers this morning. They may have something they may want not make to ask you about a particular agreement that may be of concern to them, and we give them the opportunity when we come back. Stay with us, folks. Short break, and we will be right back.
Wait to see my granddaughter.
That's not how you cross the pedestrian crossing.
Really? One day I just woke up and I saw pedestrian crosswalks on the road. No one really showed me how to use them properly.
Well, this is how it's done. You never cross before doing these things. They might save your life. First, when you get to the crosswalk, you stop. You look left, you look right. If there's a vehicle coming, you put your hand out, making eye contact with the driver, indicating that you want to cross. And only when the vehicle comes to a complete stop, you quickly cross to the other side.
Stop, look, hand out, eye contact. Wait for pedestrian to cross to the other side, then you happily continue on your journey. This message is brought to you by this group of insurance companies, the Traffic Advisory Body, and the Traffic Department.
It is important.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers, to The Point here for today, Tuesday, the 28th of November. With me this morning, Mr. Oliver Joseph. It's Opposition Tuesday, and he represents the opposition. So, Joe, we did promise to take some calls from our listeners and viewers this morning in this segment. Let's go to the line. Take our first caller. Good morning and welcome.
Oh, yes. Good morning to you. And have a good day. Good morning to Mr. Joseph. You know, I listening to this situation there since it's emerged, and so much things is going through my mind. You know, could this be reversible? And I find it so difficult. We have so much brilliant people in this country to lead us as leaders. When would we get to this point when we can manage our country without people dictating to us? Could we grow this country so that we could get our people out of this? I call that social mess. You know, it hurts to know that people are forcing us to do the things that we should not do, and then we have to do it because we want $2. You know, this thing, so it gets me crazy. You know, I think we have to get out of this as soon as we can. You know, we must be able to manage our country without these people dictating to us and having to give us something for us to go forward. We have the ability as people and leaders. We can do it. Why can't we do it? Why don't we do it? This thing's getting people upset. It's getting me really, really upset to know that people have to dictate to us what they want us to do with our laws and government and leaders. Thank you, sir. Have a good morning.
Thank you for your contribution also, caller. Any response to the caller?
Thank you, caller. I could see the passion in the caller. Voice caller. So, as I said, it's 79 countries of the ACP, and this is a negotiated agreement. So if you have a negotiated agreement, it is difficult to conclude that the EU, the Europeans, are just pushing down things our throat because they want to give us some assistance. You could say that the negotiations are uneven because they are coming from a position of strength, because they have the financing. But it was not an agreement that was just framed together and sent to the 79 countries and asked them to sign. It was a negotiated agreement. And therefore, we had an opportunity to raise objections and to make a determination of what the final document would be. Of course, because the EU is the one providing the funding, they always look like they are the ones that are calling the shot. You know, well, they decide, they will tell you, and if you don't agree with it, you know, you go. And then we live in an interdependent world. No country is really totally dependent.
All right.
But the caller make a very good point in that after all these years of independence, we should really think about different arrangements. I think he has a good point.
Let's take another caller. Caller, good morning, welcome.
Yeah, morning to you and morning to your guests and so. You know, I listened to the leader of this country, and I could not believe when the gentleman said that no document was signed. And long before all over the Caribbean news, the document have already been signed. And to tell you the honest truth, I find that is lying. You know, I also look at the issue with the 290,000. That up to now, he can't produce a cabinet conclusion. So what do you expect people to do? Whenever he says something, do you expect to have any confidence that he's saying? Because you say one thing, and this is the opposite. But what I want to ask Mr. Joseph, in terms of real big financing, I hear you talk about the infrastructure project, but people looking for big investment, people looking for financing, money running, and jobs coming. That's what people want to see. So understand with this agreement, with this institutional thing and democracy, yes, that is also good. But people don't want that. They want to know how much grants you're getting, money flowing, so that the economy will grow and big investments. That is what they're interested in. But back to the issue of the signing. You cannot sign something that is in contravention with the laws of Grenada and a violation of the Constitution. And that's two things that have people upset. You lie and say that how you signed it, I didn't sign it. And in Grenada is a Christian society. I have no problem with people having sex with who they want and they love who they want, because I said that openly. You love who you want, love is love. And I'm not against the LGBT community. But you have to take into consideration the people, the so-called Christian society, and other persons who have not signed the document have a lot of similar concerns about the same thing. And it's so shameful and it's disgraceful that the Prime Minister say that he didn't read it. Oh, what kind of Prime Minister are you? Instead of up and down, flying up and down, sit down and attend to see what's happening, because I feel too comfortable when you say you don't see it and then the ambassador sign it. No, that's not how you govern a country.
Well, take another 10 seconds and wrap, please. We are strapped for time.
So I'm saying to you, this saying about he did sign it and then afterwards it said, I find this embarrassing and you look like a liar. But what I'm saying, I think that we should get more money. So I'm asking Mr. Joseph, is there such a money for investment and people coming? Because there were people looking for jobs and all these things. So could you tell me if that is part of the document?
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much.
Thank you, caller. That's a very good question. The hope is that under the agreement that European Union investors will be allowed to come into ACP states and invest, but investors make decisions based on profit, not based on any agreement or market access, because they are looking at the bottom line. And so for very small island states like those in the Caribbean, if it is not profitable for them to come, you could have it in the agreement and they wouldn't come. But yes, in the agreement it covers investment relations between the ACP state and Europe, caller. You express your opinion already on the way it went, these statements were made and so on. So I wouldn't comment on that. But yes, you're right. There is investment, and that is what Grenada need. We need investment to the private sector, and we need investors to create the jobs in our country. That's what we need in order for the economy to grow. We need investment.
All right, we do have another caller. Caller, good morning, welcome.
Hi, good morning to you, GT, and to my friend, Mr. Joseph. Like the first caller, it really bleeds me when, after all these years, we still are going on our knees, literally, and hat in hand to our old colonizers. And as he's quite rightly said, Mr. Joseph quite rightly said, that thing has been whittled down very much over the years from a point where mostly all our roads, our schools, and everything came from the European Union under the original Lomé Convention. And these days now, with all the other East European countries, it's now the European Union. Most of them are not even much better off than we are. So we find that very little is now coming to the islands. I don't think the Prime Minister lied, because of course time difference and the fact that it just shows there was a lack of coordination. But as you quite rightly said, Mr. Joseph, this is negotiated. And it's usually negotiated over a period of at least 3 years. So I'm sure that you know that even in your time, this was already on the table. Right? Because this agreement lasts for usually about 5 years. And as I said last week, GT recall, when the economic partnership agreement was supposed to be signed, they gave 10 years notice to the Caribbean. And when 3 months ago, just as we are now, and it's time to sign, Guyana and other countries have said, well, we have to bring it to our people first. But we have that tradition of waiting on the last minute, not discussing things, not ventilating them, and when we on the last minute try to rush them through. And I guess what's happened here, there was a lack of coordination. The decision was made by probably, maybe, as Joseph said, persons who are not authorized, and it's quite possible that the Prime Minister, unfortunately, was not aware. But these things should not come to the last minute like that. They usually have at least 3 years of negotiation. And that's the time where we should bring it to our people, not a week before or 3 days before the signing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. Mr. Joseph, that was our final caller, and we have about that time of the morning when we have to wrap today's program. Any closing comments or any response to the caller before your closing comments?
No, well, the caller expressed his opinion, and the caller has knowledge about the negotiations and how it works. You know, in 2000, when the last Lomé ended, what happened is COVID started, so you couldn't travel. Some of the meetings started online, and then it's within the last year you see the negotiation really picked up.
All right.
But he's correct, because in our time when we were negotiating, we had consultations with various groups. So if you have an area say for intellectual property, we'll consult the Ministry of Legal Affairs. Fishery subsidies, we'll send it to fisheries. Services, we send it to the various organizations, and that's how it's done. That's how it's supposed to be done. I don't know if that was done with this agreement, because there are a lot of areas and you don't have all the expertise in it. So you send it and you get feedback.
All right.
So in all of this, it shows that we as we're going to be young, because we're going to be 50 years next year as an independent state. But I think, if like the first caller and the last caller, there are certain things that we need to take a different approach to after 50 years as an independent state.
All right, so true.
So that we can manage our development from our perspective of what we want, our model of development. We have a National Sustainable Development Plan in place that goes up to 2030, and therefore we follow this development plan that will lead us to where we want to get. The issue is always one of financing, which I think we have to start to address now as an independent country after 50 years, still turning to the European Union, who have their own handful. You have war going on in Ukraine, you have also issues around the world, and therefore we will have to be show more independence then as we move forward after 50 years of independence.
All right. So Joseph, I want to thank you for being on the program this morning. It was a pleasure to have you as always. Have yourself a great day, sir.
Thank you very much, and all the best to you.
Right. I want to thank all our listeners and viewers who've been with us this morning here on To The Point. Have yourself a great day, and all the best. That's where we wrap today's program. Goodbye.